So I just want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Anchor. And if you haven't already heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. And I'm going to explain that. And for one, it's free. And there's a lot of creation tools that will allow you to record and even edit your podcast right from your phone or even your computer. And Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and so much more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So if you're thinking about making a podcast, seriously, check it out. It's the best.
When the tears are rolling down like a river to the ocean, and there's no one else around, you won't question my devotion. Everybody needs somebody, and you got me. You know that I know that you know that I'll be there for the highs and lows. Give you mine if your heart gets broke. By your side when you're all alone, I will be there. When you're down on your luck, no ride home and you got too drunk. 2 a.m. I'ma pick you up. I will be there. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you. When you're down on your luck, no ride home and you got too drunk. Whoa, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you.
Thank you for
I'm
checking out
ready.
Voices of Serenity. So I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy and sane. So tonight with me, I have Jenna, and this girl is like amazing. She's a rock star, and she was sent over to me by an amazing friend of mine. And so she's going to be sharing with us her story, and she is a survivor as well. So I'm just going to kind of turn the table over to her so that way there she could tell us a little bit more about herself, and she's going to take it over from here. So, hey, Jenna. You are perfectly fine.
Hey, I'm so nervous.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us.
I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to start. I've never done anything
You are
like this
a survivor,
before.
like all of us here. So tell us, let's see. So you're a survivor. So you have this page. You have this page called Chains Breaking Free. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So with my biological family, I've dealt with a lot of abuse, and then going into the foster system, and kind of went from like I never hopped from one foster family to another. I kind of went from my biological family to this one foster home. And then I ended up getting adopted by this one foster home. And it was one of those things where, like, you go from one abusive home to the next, and where the justice system has kind of like just failed me and my siblings. And growing up, I had a lot of anger. And so I was kind of known for having fights in school growing up. And so I got to a point in my life where I was just tired of being angry and keeping this pent up. And there's been times where, like, I've tried to go public with it. Like, I've gone to the cops, I've spoken to teachers, and I reached out for help. But then when that help reached out to my adopted mother would always try to counteract that, saying I had like a mental illness, I make up stories, and just putting me in a really bad light. And so that really made it difficult for me to just kind of break free from the abuse that I was dealing with. And so when I got to a point where I was just ready to be done with it, the therapist that I was seeing at the time, she had told me, you know what, Jenna, you really need to write a book. Like that, this could be something. And so I started writing an autobiography. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm still working on it. And then a close friend of mine had said, you know what, you should start a Facebook group page because there's more people like you out there. And so that's what kind of like started it. And when I made the page, I started just little by little, whenever I would have like a flashback or like a PTSD moment, I would make a post of whatever it was that was on my mind that I remembered. And it really helped just writing it and putting it down, but really helped is going public with it. Because I felt like my entire childhood, it was such a secret and it was always swept under the rug. That like no one ever believed me because of what my adopted mother would say about me. And a lot of the things she said wasn't even true. And I'm like, no, like this is legit happened. Ask my sisters, ask my brothers, like this really happened. And so going public with it like that has really helped me I haven't been as angry the little bit
that's awesome.
that I've been,
I mean, and doing,
coming out public
like
with
a
it.
blog almost. Those are so helpful, to express your feelings, to, and it's almost like writing it down on paper, having a journal, they're so helpful. They really, truly are. And then to put it out there for others to see, for them to know that they're not alone, that's huge. It really, truly is, for other people, and I checked it out. I didn't check it out to the fullest, but I did, check out a few stories of yours, and I was reading some of them, and I had gotten goosebumps. I had chills because with some of them, it was almost as if I was reading my own, with some of the events that had taken place. I'm just like, oh my gosh, was that my story that I just read? It was mind blowing.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that like a lot of perpetrators, am I saying that right? Perpetrators, they have to me, it seems like they all have the same agenda. They have all the same red flags, and to me, it just seems like it just doesn't get the notice that it really should. And so more and more children, I feel like these days are it's just happening more and more and more. And when it really shouldn't be, because at this point, all the signs should be there. And for some reason, when a child or a teen, comes
really
out with it, like no one believes them. And the evidence is right there.
Like
and to me, that's just ridiculous.
Towards the predator more than the survivor, or, I know that a lot of people use the term victim, but I like to say survivor. But it definitely does seem like there is more sympathy or excuses towards the predator. But what's really mind-blowing and really upsetting is the simple fact of, and I do understand in a slight way how within the judicial system, of course there has to be a case built up and there has to be evidence presented. But what I don't understand is that, it seems like there's more time spent for the, survivor or victim or whatever it is you want to call us. We have to spend more time explaining ourselves and building our case versus the predator.
Yep. And that's the thing, like a lot of the blame goes towards, the victims, the survivors. And I watch a lot of like Law and Order, there's criminal TV shows and stuff. Even though I know it's like fictional, but it really helps me, put in perspective, because a lot of the episodes, they're based on inspirations of true stories, true events. And they make a fictional story about it. So it helps me feel like there's some type of justice, because in my case, I don't feel like I had any type of justice. This woman is roaming free. My biological family, they're roaming free. And there was really, not that I can remember, any type of punishment. And instead, it was like lean towards, oh, well, you shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done that. I was 3 years old, and even younger than that when the abuse started. And, like Dr. Phil had always said, it is never the victim's fault. It is never the survivor's fault, because they are an adult and they know better, not us.
Absolutely.
We are at a point where we are still
agree.
learning right from wrong, wrong.
For the longest time,
it just, like you said, it just completely blows my mind.
And knows, the work that I do. I mean, obviously, I have my own organization that deals with rape and sexual assault survivors, and this podcast. But I also do, a lot of casework for Bikers Against Abuse. But prior to Bikers Against Abuse, I had my own organization where I exposed online sexual predators. And it was mind blowing at how many times I would constantly hear,
oh wow,
from the sexual predators that, we would expose and we would catch and, bring forth to law enforcement and the DA's office of, well, I was only trying to be their friend, or, maybe the child shouldn't have been online. Well, you were the one who initiated the contact with said child. It's not the child's fault. It's not the child's fault that you wanted to meet up with this child and have sex. You would have ruined this child's life. You would have ruined this child's body. And I'm sorry, but last I knew, you were the adult. It's not the child's fault. Yeah, and it's just, the blame that gets passed down. I agree. Never understand
point blank,
it.
period. Yeah, it's like when me and my biological sister, her and I are really close, and we had met with our biological parents. And I was about 22, I think, and I had a fiance at the time. And we had met, my sister, she lives in Georgia. And so when we went to Georgia to meet up with our parents, and we went to like a little pizza place, and I had confronted him about some of the things that I remembered that he did. And I had asked him, what did I ask him? I had told him a memory that I had, and his response was, you were too young to remember that. So his response, like, that has stuck with me, and it's like a ringing in my ear.
Right.
If someone who was innocent that really didn't do that,
Correct,
their response wouldn't be, you were too young to remember that. That lets me know that what I remember is true, that I'm not crazy, that I remember exactly what I remember. And it made me sick to my stomach. My own father, my flesh and blood, my own father did this to us. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. Like, it just completely blew my mind that that's what his response
I mean, it's
was.
like with my first
like,
abuser.
Oh my God, you sick
to
bastard.
this day, here I am, 31 years old, and I can take out a piece of paper and I can draw out his entire apartment, his entire apartment that was in that apartment complex. I can draw out his entire apartment down to the silverware drawer. I can tell you what his bathroom looked like, his bedroom, how his bed was, where it laid, his computer desk inside of his bedroom, how that was positioned in his room, the other bedroom, his living room layout. I mean, it's like you don't forget those things. Yes.
No, not at all. And I gave in detail, like you said, in detail, everything, the color of the floor, where my sister was standing, where the fridge was, where the stove was, what my sister was cooking. Like, I can remember the smells, and I was only 3, this specific memory, I was only 3 years old. And I remember that stuff does not leave you. And with me being a mother myself, like, I got 5 kids of my own, and being able to look back, because my youngest is 2, about to be 3. And a lot of times when my children turn a certain age of when like certain things happen to me at that age, it brings triggers. So when my youngest is about to be 3, so I have a lot of triggers from the time when I was 3. And it makes me think, I look at my almost 3-year-old son, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, this was the age that I remember this happened to me. I saw this happen to my brother. I saw this happen to my sister.
Certainly get triggers,
and it's like,
and you will get PTSD,
wow.
You'll get flashbacks, you'll get night terrors, you will regress, you will have all of those things. I mean, I sit here, I have many triggers, and I mean, as simple, and to a lot of people who don't understand, they seem childish, they seem stupid, and and I talk about it all the time, this one particular trigger, because to a lot of people, it is the dumbest trigger. But to me, it's a major trigger. Not that it's a major trigger, but it's a major trigger, because for others who seem to think that it's stupid, for me, it's a very difficult trigger to live by. It is, because this one trigger in particular, I get triggered by cooking spaghetti.
It's huge.
Because that was the one meal that he loved to cook, and he taught me how to cook it.
I feel it.
And with me having 4 children, I'm not going to sit here and look at my kids and be like, I'm not cooking you spaghetti. I as a mother, I'm not going to do that. If my kids want spaghetti, I'm going to make them spaghetti. But while I'm cooking that spaghetti, I'm having flashbacks. I'm thinking about it. I get triggered.
I feel it. Yep. It's like with my adoptive mom, I have this thing with cleaning. Now, when I clean, hunty, I am an immaculate cleaner. My adoptive mom taught me how to clean, but the way she taught me how to clean has been a trigger for me. So I absolutely hate doing dishes. I absolutely hate cleaning, and I will procrastinate on it, and I'll wait till the crap piles up, and to the point where it's overwhelming. And and it has affected my life. And the way she would do it is, the older I got, the more I realized, in quotations, the norm of cleaning. And hers was just overly excessive to me, and like to even to my therapist. She was just like, oh my God. So what she would do, if it wasn't to her satisfaction, like I remember one time I was probably about like 8 years
Right.
old, and we had to clean up her toys. It was at that time, and she was like, if it's not to my
Right.
satisfaction, you're going to do it over again. So we worked, me and my siblings, like we worked really hard to really please her, and picked up all the toys. We vacuumed, we folded our clothes, we put them in the dressers, and we wiped down the mirrors and all that. She came up and she found literally one little speck of dust on a baseboard. And she took our dresser drawers, dumped them upside down, took our toy boxes, dumped them out. She literally tore our bedroom apart, and we had to
Wow.
do it all over again. And that was exhausting. That was like almost a daily thing. Nothing was ever good enough for this woman. And it just was crazy. And if we didn't,
Mm.
there was a time where like if she was pissed off enough, had a bad enough day,
Oh,
she
wow.
would whoop the crap out of us. Do it again. Do it again. There was one day she had dumped it 3 times, and we had to do it over.
I hear you.
It was completely exhausting. And so, like, now that I'm
Right.
older, I hate cleaning. I can clean, but I don't like it. I, mm-mm, I just don't do it. I do the minimum. I do the minimum, and that's it. Me and the kids are going to go to
Right.
the lake. We're going to have a good day, or we're going
Right.
to, spend time doing something else, family oriented. I just don't want to do it
Yes.
because it reminds me too much of her,
Yep.
and
I
it
hear you.
bugs the crap out of me. It irritates me.
I hear you.
Mm, 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 mm. This woman, she was something else.
Oh,
Mm, mm.
if
Oh,
listen, if you feel like you need to
I'm about
cry,
to cry.
don't don't feel bad.
Um,
Don't feel ashamed. You know what I mean? Don't feel embarrassed. Um, I've cried here on my show. I've bawled my eyes out on my show.
I just feel like she was such an angry woman, and I trusted her. It's one thing to be betrayed by your family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you bring in strangers, complete strangers into your life to trust,
Yeah.
to me, that's just the ultimate betrayal. It's like, I trusted you when I couldn't even trust my own family, and you broke that trust. And I have a huge trust issue when it comes to relationships, to friends. Like, she's really messed me up. And, therapy, if anyone ever needs to go to
It
therapy
definitely
that's dealt
does.
with
And that
abuse
is
or any
one
type
thing that
of
I have
trauma,
told people before,
like,
that when it does
I
come to
recommend it because
therapy,
it does
it
help. It
does
really does
help,
help.
but it also helps that, because a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to therapy, therapy is also a trial and error. A lot of people think, oh, okay, well, I went to this therapist and I didn't like them. Therapy doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's within your right to, if you feel like this therapist is triggering for you, or if this therapist isn't working for you, try another one. A lot of people, yes, yep,
Yep. And I had to go through that process. I've probably been through 4 different therapists before. About 2 years ago, I finally found one who really made a difference. And then she went private, and so I had to transfer. And so now I'm seeing someone new, and they
Yeah.
are just as amazing. And so I got really blessed with being
Yeah,
able to have a
and
good
that
therapist
that
back to
is a
back that really
world of
helped me.
difference.
So
Yeah,
it, like you said, it
that's
definitely
a
is a
world of
trial and
difference.
error, and you just can't give up. If something doesn't work for you, keep trying. For some reason, my adopted mother, she had a thing with therapists, and a lot of it has to do with because I
Right.
had a big mouth, and because I knew the things that she was doing was wrong. And so I was always vocal about it. And, I was like that, that little child that always said, oh, they did this to me. They did that to me. She did this to me. She did that to me. He
Mm,
did this to me. He did that to me. And she didn't like
gotcha.
that. And so I felt like she kind of deprived me of that help to cover her own little dirty secrets. And because when I started seeing this one therapist that came to our house, and I was telling her some of the things that my adopted mother was doing, and she would confront my adopted mother about it. And, she, would make up some story or some excuse or whatever. And after she would leave, she would say, I don't need therapy anymore. And I would never see that therapist again. And it just kind of
Right.
like baffled me, like, why would you do that? Like, I was starting to get help, and then you just completely cut me off. And it's
Correct. Yeah.
because the older I got, looking back, she was doing stuff that she really shouldn't have been doing. And because I was being vocal about it, she's like, I don't want anyone to know. So,
Oh,
oh, she don't need therapy no more. She's fine. She's fine. I remember my first Christmas with my adoptive family. I wasn't adopted yet. I was about 3 years old. And I remember the Christmas tree. I remember the presents. And there was other foster kids in there with me and my siblings. And I remember waking up. It was still dark. It was probably like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I
right.
remember walking down, and I could see, the lights kind of like reflecting on the wall at the bottom of the stairs, and tiptoeing across the Christmas tree. I was 3. And what woke me up was the smell of cookies. And my adopted mother,
Right.
oh my gosh, she could cook. She could bake. She was an amazing cook. If anything, I miss her food. And when I walked in the kitchen, I was, holding my little stuffed animal. And before I was adopted, my name was Maggie. And she was like, Good morning, Maggie. And I was like, Good morning. And I asked her, I said, Can we open presents now? And she was like, Yeah. And so I got so excited. And I just remember running up the stairs, and I was just yelling at the top of my lungs, Santa came, everybody wake up, wake up.
Mhm.
And I was shaking everybody, and we all came running down the stairs. And since I didn't really know how the process worked, I just started grabbing presents and opening them.
Right.
And I remember the first present that I grabbed, I was ripping it open, and it was a Cabbage Patch doll. And I've always wanted a Cabbage Patch doll. And she walked in, and she was like, No, Maggie, no, there's names on them, see? And the Cabbage Patch doll that I had opened, it wasn't mine. It wasn't my present.
Right.
Like, I was disappointed, but I wasn't like throwing a tantrum. Like, deep inside, I was like, oh, I wish that was mine, but it wasn't. And after that, like, things were going great. Like, I was really happy. I didn't have to worry about anyone touching me. Things were just really peaceful until I turned about 6 years old. And my punishment was standing in the corner naked. She would strip me of all my clothes, and she would
What?
put me in the corner naked. There was a couple times where she stuck me outside for all the neighbors to see, and I was butt ass naked. And that was my punishment. Yeah. And there was a day where she had put me in the corner, and I don't remember what I did, but she got so mad. And I just remember she was like, well, I'm going to strip you naked. And I said, no, you're not. I got my little sassy 6-year-old self. And I was like, you ain't going to touch me. And sure enough, we started fist fighting and stuff. And she took my shirt off. She took my pants off. And I was kicking her. I even bit her. And I was like screaming at the top of my lungs, no, 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 because I knew what she was doing, this punishment was wrong. Right. Which is like crazy to say, being 6 years old and understanding what true punishment really is. And I remember when she took my underwear off, I can't even begin to explain the weakness that I felt. And I felt completely defeated. And there I was, butt ass naked in the corner. And one of my sisters used to go into the corner where I was at, and she would fondle me, and sometimes she would perform oral sex on me. And there was a day where my adopted dad had gotten off work, and I was in the corner naked, and he was carrying his little red cooler that he carries his lunch stuff in, and he was still in his work outfit, and he was walking up the stairs. And I remember him looking at me and the disgust on his face. And I made eye contact with him. And I know he saw me, and he just kept walking. And I felt so helpless. And I'm like, I feel so alone. Like, what am I going to do? Like, my own dad won't protect me.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. The things that people do for their own sick gratification
on anything
to make them feel powerful, in control. Nope. Even that time with
that sounds really familiar.
I don't know if you remember that movie, The Polar Bear King, from like back in the 90s. It was about like this this princess back in like, I don't know, I think it might have been Antarctica, but it was where it was just snow everywhere. And she was a princess, and there was a prince who had a curse put on him because of a witch that wanted to marry him, but he rejected her, right. And so she put a curse on him and turned him into a polar bear. And she said that the curse wouldn't be broken, kind of like a Beauty and the Beast type thing. Someone has to love you for who you are. And there was a scene in there where the witch had said, right, no one can see you as a human, because at night he was able to go back to his normal self, and then during the day he would turn into a polar bear. And so in the movie, there was a scene where she snuck into his room with a candle and was looking at him, and a piece of wax dropped on his forehead, and that woke him up. So I think I was about 7, 8 years old. It was around that time. And it was a new movie to me, and I absolutely loved it. And I remember waking up late at night, and I don't know what gave me this idea, but I wanted to reenact that scene.
Oh, yes.
I was kind of a drama queen back then. I wanted to be an actress and a dancer. You know how little girls do, like, oh, I want to be a big star. Yeah. And so I remember I was quietly sneaking out of my bedroom, and my adopted mother was sitting on the couch still watching TV. And my adoptive dad was in their bedroom, sleeping. And I snuck by him, and I grabbed my adoptive mother's candle and her matches, brought them back to my bedroom, brought them to my bed, and I started lighting the candle. And as I was lighting it, I was acting out that scene, and I would drop a piece of, wax on the floor. And, I know that sounds so weird, but that's what happened. And my mother, she said that she smelled something burning. and like she could smell the candle. And so when she came up, she saw that, I saw her come in the doorway, and I blew the candle out really quick, and I stuck it under my pillow. And the matches that I would light, I'll blow them out, and then I would sit them on top of the dresser. And this made her so angry. And as a parent, like, I can understand how mad she got, because I could have burnt the house down, seriously. And, but it is a beating that I will never forget, ever, 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 ever. She was so mad. She took my pants off, she took my underwear off, and, she started slapping me with her hand. And she did that till she was like out of breath. And when I thought she was done, because she just kind of got up and huffed and left the room. And my adopted dad had walked in, turned the lights on and stuff, and was kind of like, what's going on? And he just kind of waited there. And I put my clothes back on, and she came back in with a belt. She went upstairs and got my dad's belt, and she just started beating me head to toe, and she just would not stop. Like, it was a beating that just went what seemed like forever. I was black and blue from the middle of my back all the way down to the back of my knees. I could not sit for days, and I will never forget that. And she just kept calling me a cunt, and I don't.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. I will never forget it. And to this day, I have never touched a match since. That's how traumatizing it was. I have yet to touch a match.
That's so sad.
It was definitely a lesson learned. And my adopted dad, he was standing there while it happened, and he just sat there and watched. Like, he didn't intervene, nothing. He was a super sweet man, but I just feel like he never had a backbone. And he just sat there and watched most of the time. And he's yet to admit the things that he's witnessed.
Like I said, you
just like
are telling your story.
Sorry if I feel like I'm rambling
at all. Like I said, if it seems like I'm quiet, I'm really not. I'm just letting you tell your story. You're fine. Oh yes, okay. That was one of my favorite movies, but it sucked because it was also so relatable.
You know the movie Matilda? Yep. Thank you. Same with me. It was my escape growing up, because the principal reminded me a lot of my adoptive mother. And you know the scene where she takes that cute little blonde girl with the pigtails, and she just holds her pigtails, and she just swings her in a circle, and then she lets go, and she goes over that fence? Yes. Like, I feel like a lot of the movies that we watched, she got a lot of her discipline from those movies, because she didn't do that to me, but she had done that to one of the girls that she ended up adopting into the family. And she had taken, I don't know what started it, but I remember being downstairs playing video games, and my adopted mother had left to go grocery shopping, and it was my adopted dad, and then her son and my other siblings. And I just remember hearing this faint screaming, yelling noise, and I was like, what is that noise? And so I started to make my way upstairs. And the closer I got, the louder it got. And then when I got to the top of the stairs, there was just like all my siblings were just standing in front of our bedroom, the bedroom that me and my sisters, we were broken up into big kids and little kids. And me and my 4 sisters, we were in the little kid group. And we shared a room. And everyone was standing outside of our room. And my adopted dad, I saw him like carrying stuff out of the bedroom. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And then another girl that was adopted into the family, she was like, she's going to rip my American Girl doll heads off. My mother gave me those. And she was just bawling. And so I walk into the room, and the sister that's throwing the tantrum, she used to collect like these tar rocks out in the yard. And she had this tar rock, and she was just banging it on the wooden door, and it was putting dents into the bedroom door. And I grabbed it, and I was like, why are you acting like this? Like, I was just like, whoa, what is your deal? And me and my siblings, we nicknamed her tantrums the summer tantrums, because she would only have these bizarre off the wall tantrums in the summertime. And she was like, she said something like, I'm going to throw the lamps. I'm going to break the lamps. And so my adopted dad, he started taking the lamps and taking them out of the room. And he started taking her American Girl dolls out of the room. Like, he took anything that she could break, anything. And he just closed the door, and he called our adopted mother. And we already knew that she was in for it, because she was kind of new to the family. And we were all just looking at each other like, oh my God, what the hell is she about to do to this girl? And we just stood outside the door, and we just waited for her to come home. And all of a sudden you hear, boom, that front door came flying open. And you can hear her stomping up the stairs, and she was pissed. Oh my God, I've never seen someone so mad. And we were just like, oh my God, we all stepped out of the way, and in she goes. And she just started punching her in the face. She grabbed her by her hair, and she just picked her up by the head of her hair and did exactly what in the movie, that scene with the principal, and she was just twirling her by the head of her hair, and she just let go. And she ended up banging into those like old 90s wooden doors with the little circle silver doorknob. And it wasn't an actual doorknob. It was just like a circle indented into the door, and you just slide it open. It was one of those type of doors. And she cried, and that just pissed her off even more, because the door broke. And she just kept punching her and kicking her and did it. And I remember stepping in and being like, Mom, that's enough. You're going to kill her. And she was like, shut the fuck up before I do it to you. And I was just like, oh my God. I ran behind my dad and stood there, and I wasn't crying out loud, but I had tears coming down my face because I didn't know what to do. And she just dragged her from one end of the room to the other, just by her head of her hair, just dragging back and forth, punching her as she goes. And I was just like, oh my God. And then when it was finally done, this felt like it went on for like 30 minutes. And she beat this chick to the point where she was out of breath. She couldn't breathe. And
How old
she
was
was
she?
just like, she pushed past us, and she was like, if you ever tell anyone, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I was just like, oh, damn.
Oh.
And she went somewhere. Yeah, she, at this time, she was probably about 10, 11 years old. Yeah, like we were young. We were really young. And me and my sisters, we had an above ground pool in the backyard. And me and my sisters, we went behind the pool where the little fence was and the clothesline was. And we were just kind of sitting in a circle, and we were just kind of picking at the grass, and we were just kind of silent for a minute. And my one of the other girls that was adopted into the family, there was 10 of us, like there was a bunch of kids in this house. And this one sister that I was extremely close with, she wasn't my blood sister, but we were very, very close. And she was like, do you think she'll do it? Do you think she'll kill us if we ever told anyone? And I was like, did you see what she did to her? Like, I'm not going to tell anybody. You kidding me? She would kill us in our damn sleep. And we were like that scared of this woman. Like, Yeah, but I ain't scared no more. I'm grown now. She just, her punishment techniques were ridiculous. And she is now banned from fostering ever again. And what did it was when we moved to Tennessee and we moved up on Signal Mountain, she had taken in a teenage girl and her little brother. She was probably, I think, about 14 years old. She was about our age at the time. And then her brother, I think, was like 7, 8 years old. And her mom, I think she had some kind of addiction. I can't remember if it was alcoholism or if it was drugs. I can't remember, but there was a reason why she was put into foster care. But I just remember her being
Right.
really sad about being away from her mom, and she really missed her mom, and she was just really heartbroken. So she cried a lot. She's really heartbroken, which is understandable. And so me and my sister that I was extremely close with, we used to comfort her and say, things are going to get better. It's okay. But our adopted mother, she would always say, get the fuck over it. That's life. Like she was just completely heartless, just completely heartless. And there was a day where her brother had done something that she didn't like, and she beat the piss out of this boy with her belt. Like it was like, I'm all for spanking and maybe a couple of licks here and there.
Wow.
But this was like, I was just like, oh my God, like, here you go, Lucy, here you go again. And she just, her sister ended up, his sister ended up reporting her to her case manager, and she was banned ever since then. Ever since then. And I'm so glad, like, because she does not need to be fostering anymore.
Sounds it.
She just was a very cruel woman, very cruel woman. And there was, yeah, and she, at one point, one of my biological sisters was molesting me, and she ended up molesting her biological daughter, and she was blaming me for doing it, even though I kept telling her, no, it was so and so. Because when I told her that she was doing it to me, she was like, oh, you're a dirty little pig. You make up stories, blah, 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 blah. And I had to put a knife to my sister's throat to get her to stop touching me. And I told her, you touch me again, I will slice your throat in your sleep. I promise you. And she promised she would never touch me again. And she never did again. And when after that, she started touching her daughter. And first, I remember it was probably 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. And me and my sisters, we were in our bedroom and we were talking about soccer. And I remember saying the word soccer, and it accidentally came out sucker. And at that age, you're not allowed to say, those kind of words. So we were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. And I was like, it was an accident, kind of giggling about it. And I remember seeing her coming in through the bedroom, and by her demeanor, I could tell she was mad. And so I thought she was mad because she heard me say the word sucker. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'll never say it again. I'll never say it again. And she pulled me by my head of my hair, dragged me out of the bed, dragged me up 2 sets of stairs all the way up into the bedroom. And it was an attic that was turned into a bedroom. And she was like to her daughter, tell her what you told me. And she never said who it was that touched her. And she just said, she said, what happened to her, the exact, she went into detail. And I turned and I was in complete shock. Like, I didn't even know what to say. My jaw dropped. And I was like, it wasn't me. Like, I've been telling you it was so-and-so, and you wouldn't believe me. And she went off. Like, she took my pants and my pajamas off and took my underwear off. And she started slapping me with her hand. And when she got tired, she was like looking around on the floor, like she was patting her hand on the floor, trying to look for something to hit me with. And she got a hold of a high-heeled shoe and she started beating me with that. And my siblings and my dad was in that room when that happened.
Jesus.
And she just kept doing it over and over and over. She got me in the face, she got me in my back, she got me in my butt, she got me in my legs. Like, she just would not stop. And I was bruised head to toe with that damn shoe. And she spit on me and she called me a cunt and she said I was a dirty little pig. And I didn't even know what to do with myself. When she got done, everyone was just standing there in silence, just looking at me. And I never felt so humiliated in my life. And I was just picking up my clothes, you know, and made my way downstairs to my bedroom. I didn't even know what to do after that. I just laid in bed and cried. I was butt ass naked, just laying in my bed, bruised as shit. It's just crazy. She makes me so mad. She angers me. She really does. Right. Especially now that I'm a mother. I can't even look at my kids and ever look at them being that angry. Like, and I get mad, but like, it's like, oh, how can you do that to children? Like, what is going through your mind to make you think that they did something so wrong that they deserve that kind of punishment? Like, it's just, I can't. It's ridiculous. She angers me more than my own biological parents. Like, to me, she's done more damage to me than my own biological father and my own biological family.
Why, or even how, anyone can hurt a child, whether it's sexual abuse or physical abuse, verbal, mental, emotional, spiritual. I've never been able to understand why. Yeah.
Yep. And then to be your own flesh and blood, your own flesh and blood, my own damn sister. And the sister that I used to be like really close with, that was adopted into the family. There was a day where I was up in my room, up in the attic. And at this point, we were moved up there. And I was playing a video game, listening to music, doing my own thing. And my sister, who was known for fondling me in the corner naked, she came upstairs, and her biological son was in charge of babysitting because both the parents were gone. And my sister had come upstairs and was like, "Hey, come downstairs and play a video game with me." And I was like, okay. Came downstairs. I was like 11-ish, I think. And, we were playing the video game. And at one point she got up to go to the bathroom. And I'm still, looking at the TV, playing the Nintendo. And she comes up behind me, kind of like slams me on the ground, starts choking me. And she had taken her pants and her underwear off in the bathroom. And so when she came up behind me, she was already naked, waist down, and she was choking me. And she was like, "I want some." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Get off of me." And it was like really hard to talk. And I was like trying to catch my breath and breathe. And she literally sat on top of my face and made me perform oral sex on her. And I tried my best to wiggle away from her. And I remember moving my head, and she kept trying to keep my head still and make me do it to her. And the sister that I was really close with, the curtains happened to be open right there in the bottom living room. And everyone else was outside playing. And she saw through the window what she was doing to me. And she came in through that back door that led into the hallway into that bottom living room. And she came in and she just kind of stopped and paused. And I ran out into the hallway, And I was like, help me. Like, I've been trying to tell her that she's been doing this to me. And she's like, well, I saw it. So, I saw it with my own eyes. And she tried talking to our adopted mother about it. And she kept saying, oh, don't believe anything she says. She's a storyteller.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, what are you talking about? I saw what she did. And she said, oh, you didn't see anything. You didn't see anything. Yep. And when we got older, after I had moved out and got pregnant with my first child, we tried to like rekindle that mother-daughter relationship. And the sister that I was close to was kind of like the mediator. And she, told her again about what she saw. And our mother was willing to talk to us about it. And so when I came over, and she was like, oh, yeah, your sister said that, your sister did this and that and the other. And I said, yeah, but you didn't believe me. And she said, yes, I did. I said, no, you didn't. You beat me with a shoe when I tried to tell you what she was doing. And the fact that she did it to your own daughter, you blamed me for doing it and you beat me with a shoe. And she started laughing. And I was like, yes. I was like, what's so funny about what I just told you? And it just completely blew my mind. And it made me hate her even more, because here I am trying to communicate with you and you're laughing in my face. Like, what the crap? And she's like, no, I believed you. I believed you. I said, no, you didn't. And, her oldest biological was sitting in the living room. And then my sister and a couple others were sitting in the living room. And they were like, yeah, you beat her with a shoe.
When you
like, we all remember that.
And even, despite your better judgment, for the sake of whether it's your well-being or whether it's your children, you go against your better judgment and you try to, rekindle this relationship that you have with, your parents or whoever it is, and you try to make things work and make things better, and this happens. They want to be stuck in that denial. They don't want to face, how they were so wrong about, their choices that they had made, and this is what they do.
Yep. And all I ever want from this woman is to admit what she did and that she was wrong.
No,
and that she is sorry. But I know because of how she is, I will never get that. And I'm fine with that. It still irks me, though. It still irks me. And that's something I'm still working on. But because of how she is, her and I will never be.
But you got to try.
We will never be.
And I know that it's
we could never have a relationship ever.
And obviously, it's not something that can happen overnight, but it's one of those things where you have to try and remember it's her loss. It's her loss at the simple fact of she's not going to have this relationship with you. It's her loss that she's missing out on a relationship with 5 awesome children. You know what I mean? So this is her loss. This is not your loss. This is not your children's loss.
Yep.
So she's the one. No, you're fine. I'm just saying. So, she's the one that has to live with the fact of
there was a meme.
She's not going to have these awesome, amazing people in her life.
Yep, I agree. I agree. She is definitely missing out on a lot, a lot, a lot. And it's like that meme that I had seen on Facebook just today, earlier today, it has said, I'm that family member that doesn't care about not being family anymore. And this smiley face, bye. That's me. Like, because of her, I am able to tap into that little psyche part of my brain where I can just cut you off and not think twice about it. And that's it. If you do me wrong, cut off. Goodbye. I ain't got time for it. I've had enough toxicity in my life. I'm not dealing with it.
Yep. Because,
positivity,
and
love,
that's the thing,
nurture, and that's it.
If it's toxic, even if that means family members, it's always best to cut them off. Because at the end of the day, yes, exactly. Because, yes, whether you have a spouse, whether you have children, whoever it is that you may have in your life, at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you're only going to see one person. So you have to make sure that, you cut out all the toxic people, all the toxic situations as best as possible. Cut it out, cut it out of your life. And I mean, and it goes with any kind of situation that's going on. It's not going to happen overnight. These kind of things, they do take baby steps, so, but, but like I said, this is her loss, and everyone else who has done you wrong within this kind of situation. And that's why I've always said, within my past episodes, and even way before I've even, this podcast was even a thought in my mind, or organization, or what have you, I would have never wished any of my, rape or sexual assaults or anything upon me. But at the same time, I don't regret anything happening to me, because not only has it made me stronger, but I wouldn't know what to look for. I wouldn't know those signs. It's made me a better mom. I know what to look for in regards to a sexual predator,
exactly.
Because it doesn't matter if it's a spouse. It doesn't matter if it's a friend. I keep my circle extremely small. So I know those signs. I know the grooming. I know the lingo. So I can sit here and say, yeah, I'm a survivor. And now, since I'm a survivor and I'm a warrior, I know what to look for. And I know how to protect my kids and keep them safe. And I will do the best that I can to do so, because I know what to look for.
It's just crazy the way some people are in this world. They're so sick and twisted, and it makes me get into like psychology and stuff and how the brain works. And it's like, how can someone ever do that to someone? Like, what is it in their brain that makes them want to do sick and twisted stuff like that? Like, I
Honestly,
don't get it. I really don't.
I hate to say it, but for,
as much as I've studied, I still don't get it.
I've been doing this kind of stuff for years in regards to, cases of, getting these guys off the streets. You will spend longer trying to figure them out versus getting them off the street. As sad as that is, it's quicker getting them off the street than it is trying to figure out why they do what they do.
That's crazy.
And that is sad. It is. It really is.
It's very sad.
I'm over here
It really
shaking my head.
is.
I've been shaking my head this whole entire time, like, oh my God. Like, this world is so sick and twisted. I feel like there's
Yeah.
more
But within that
disaster and chaos than
the
there is
more,
happiness.
people speak up and the more people talk about it, the more that people will have a better understanding of the chaos and how to handle the chaos and help with the chaos. Because then people will have a better understanding and know they may not be able to fully understand how to,
Yep.
get rid of it, but at least they'll have a better understanding as how to, get a grip on it or, go after it at least. And that's the thing with, like this, people need to know and understand they're
Yep.
not alone. They don't have to be alone. And, say, for example, like right now with my listeners and my viewers, they may not want to sit here and reach out and be like, hey, Jenna's story, I know exactly what this girl went through. I can relate to her 110,000%. I cried listening to her because I went through what she went through. We may not have people reach out. They may go to your Facebook page and say, I read it. I cried because I went through what she did. However, people will hear it and they will see and hear that, hey, because I went through it, that, and I heard that she went through it too, that tells me I'm not alone. That, I had that same kind of person in my life. I endured that kind of treatment. I endured that kind of trauma. I'm not alone in this. Whereas maybe before this episode, they really thought they were. So someone hearing your story, a lot of times, that's all that takes.
Yeah.
And that really does make a huge difference. Hey everyone, so thank you for listening to part of Jenna's story. So anytime a survivor shares their story, it is very emotionally, mentally, spiritually draining. And that is exactly what took place here tonight. And that is why the episode got cut short tonight. And Jenna will be back on at a later date to continue her story. And I want to put out there right now that on my podcast, I will never make a survivor continue on with sharing their story for the sake of my podcast. I will never, jeopardize a survivor's well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, what have you, for the sake of this podcast. So therefore, that is why, the episode will be a continuing episode at a later date. Jenna is nothing short of a rock star. She did amazing tonight. I am very proud of her. So it is being continued. So with that being said, please go on Facebook and check out her page. It is called Chains Breaking Free. It is more or less a blog of her sharing her story. For those who have listened and those who are listening, if you have experienced sexual abuse, child abuse, all of those things within those lines, or are curious to listen to her story, please go check it out. I have went and read some of her story. It is very relatable. She is not alone within this. So definitely go check it out. The link to Chains Breaking Free is within the description box. Be on the lookout for her upcoming episode. It will be happening soon. So I hope everyone is staying safe, staying healthy, and staying sane. And I love all you guys, and we'll talk soon. Bye.